Hi everyone, my name is Leo and welcome to my channel. Today, as I anticipated in my previous videos, I want to try to give you my explanations of the symbols on the cover of the Scarlet and Violet books and on the game boxes. It was tough. The deeper I dived into the story while writing this video, the more questions and doubts came up. Nevertheless, I found some answers, and I'm pretty sure you never heard them before. This video is all about speculations and my personal effort to defend the theory of time travel against all others.
Stop blathering and join me to the dark side. I've got all the answers that you need.
Just let me try something, okay? So, let's take a look at the covers of the Scarlet and Violet books. As you can see, in the corners of the book there are 4 symbols. The upper 2 are physical inside the creature. The third one is just mentioned in one of the pages of the book, while the last one needs a little more theorizing. Starting from the first one, the so-called mysterious plate represents the plate found by Eth inside the crater during the first expedition. Made of a sort of a sturdy unknown material that the explorers of the time weren't even able to scratch. While I was searching for an explanation for this symbol, I found many theories. Someone said that it resembles a sextant, an instrument used in celestial navigation, and it could be plausible, since in the image of the third legendary Pokémon, which theoretically lives inside the crater, there are stars and a boat. Somebody else said that it looks like an hourglass, and it's even more plausible, since time travel is involved in the story of the crater. But I don't know why, the first time I saw this symbol, I thought it was something else. I thought the upper triangle was the cone of the crater going down below the surface of Paldea, and the lower triangle was something rising above the ground, perhaps crystals gradually emerging higher and higher as I explained in my previous video. I thought the intersection of the 2 triangles was the area 0, where we can see the effects of the power of the crystals, and the 2 discs were a representation of the power emanating from this area, like the side beam animation in Generation 3. But now I'm starting to think it might be something else. Aside from the appearance of the symbol, which as far as we know could be anything, the strangest thing about this plate is the inscription on the right in the language of Paldea. You may have noticed that in the game some words are designed to be intelligible, such as the gym sign, while others are not, such as the signs in front of less important buildings of Paldea. This makes every attempt of translating this language basically impossible. Mainly because we don't know the base language of these words and if the Paldean signs are letters or kanji or both. But for the mysterious plate there is something that could be understood. In fact, in the second line there is a word that could be area 0, because the disposition and number of the letters are the same, plus there is a 0 after the word. And it's interesting because the same word is present on the cover of the Scarlet and Violet books. So even if the translation is not correct, it can be said that both concern the same subject. And of course there is a giant map of the modern Paldea engraved in the plate. But it seems that none of the explorers gave a damn about any of this. Maybe Eth did not see this part of the plate because it was hidden by the rocks, as we can see in the book. But none of the researchers who entered the crater in the 200 years after Eth said anything about it. This is quite suspicious in my opinion. And I find even harder to believe that someone added these words and a map of the region later. Because even if this is just a game, why would the researcher take a priceless ancient artifact and use it to draw something stupid like a map of the region? And now the most important question: how did this plate end up here? I have a couple of possible solutions. The first one is very common and I'm sure you've heard it before in other videos. I'm talking about the possibility that they are the remains of an ancient civilization older than the Paldean Empire and perhaps even older. And since the plate material is unknown and so strong according to Eth, this civilization must have been a very advanced one and with a very advanced technology. Even if this civilization for some reason disappeared from history or was destroyed without a trace. Moreover, with data mining it was discovered that the code name of Area 0 is Atlantis, a legendary and powerful city described by Plato in his works. This name could be just a placeholder without a particular meaning, like many others, or an important clue for the future of these games. In fact, Atlantis never exists in real world, except for the myth, and if this is the case, this theory fits well with the imagination theory. But I don't want to talk about the common opinion, I want to do my best to give you a plausible alternative. And of course, I have another explanation for this, but you have to wait a little, I will come back to this later, I promise. For now, I can tell you that perhaps this thing has been a bit exaggerated. Now, let's move on to the second symbol to the right of the cover. The symbol consists of a square with 4 circles around it with an arrowhead inside. And as you know, this symbol can be found in the cave where you can catch Roaring Moon and Iron Valiant. In the book, it's described as a place where the survey team rested on the second day of the expedition. And Eth wondered if it had been left here by the explorers in the time of the Paldean Empire or if it could be older. The community was literally on fire about this, and the most common explanation is the one that connects the 4 circles with the 4 treasures of ruin: Hu Qian, Qian Pao, Thing Lu and Qi Yu. As someone suggested in the comments of the previous video, the third legendary Pokémon may have been the ruined king of Paldea described in history lesson number 4, whose kingdom was destroyed because of his greed by the 4 treasures of ruin. But I don't know why I have the feeling that the story of the creator has nothing to do with this ruinous Pokémon. Maybe because of the way they are presented in the game, in one lesson on a different topic to relax after the midterm exam about the creator. Or maybe because we learn of the existence of this Pokémon immediately by finding the stakes and doors around Paldea. They don't give you the same mysterious feeling of the creator in my opinion. And I have to be honest, because of this, during the whole game I had zero interest in catching them and in collecting the stakes. I basically just caught them during the side quest because Miss Rayford asked me to. Also, they should have such devastating power to destroy a kingdom and require strong warriors to defeat and imprison them. And we, who are just young students of the academy, managed to free them because our history teacher thought it was cool to do it. I know we are the chosen ones, we are pure and no one else could have done that. But I wish I hadn't been encouraged to catch them, you know, it took away some of the magic. No, I think this symbol has another explanation. I'm more inclined to believe that this was created by an ancient civilization and not necessarily the super advanced one of Atlantis. Because I think it looks just like something that even a primitive tribe could have created. But even this time, I will try to give you another further explanation in the last part of this video, so stay with me. Now, let's move on to the symbols to the bottom of the book cover. The one on the left is not a physical symbol dug into the ground on a grave in a stone, but it's only a sketch of one of the pages of the book. In the so-called phantom memory where Eth says, "I strayed from the team and was later found unconscious. When awoken, I could only recall speaking with someone in an unfamiliar place, as if in a dream. I was found holding this page shown here, the handwriting is my own, but I have no memory of writing this." I already talked about this symbol in my first video, where I theorized that this was the secret of terastallization suggested by the AI of Sada and Turo, which was sent into the past by the original professor in a desperate attempt to speed up his work by changing the past and its exploration. And I still think that's the case. Maybe my theory is not correct, but after having studied all the sketches and notes of Professor Sada and Turo inside the Time Machine laboratory and in the Pocopath Lighthouse, I can safely say that this is part of the professor's work that somehow ended up in the past. Perhaps it was intentional, as I theorized, or perhaps it was by mistake, due to a strange time phenomenon caused by the instability of the crystals. If you look at the picture, even if it's not handmade by Sada and Turo, this page could fit perfectly on one of the whiteboards in the laboratory. As for what these sketches mean, they could be the plans for the time machine or the secret of terastallization, because they resemble the terastallization device invented by Sada and Turo. And finally, we move on to the last symbol on the cover. Finding an explanation for this was truly a nightmare. When I started collecting materials for this video, I thought the last symbol would be easy to explain, and I thought I already found the answer. I was very sure that this symbol was a representation of the third awakened legendary Pokémon as I described it in my second video. I was like, yeah, there must be a chamber in the crater locked by the DLC wall with this thing engraved on the wall or into the ground. And I was already thinking of an explanation for the arrow that seems to pierce the creator's head. But then I found this. Damn it. In the Pocopath Lighthouse Laboratory, where Sada and Turo worked for a while, this exact same symbol was written on the whiteboard with some expressions and other graphs. This symbol actually seems to be part of Professor's study, presumably concerning the time machine, assuming that the other concerns terrestrialization instead. This symbol is clearly a Cartesian coordinate plane like many others on the whiteboards, and could possibly represent the mathematical expression of something traveling from one point in the plane to another. Maybe from one point in time to another one. So this could be the plan for the time machine, but this is just a guess. I've never been good with this math stuff, and just thinking about Cartesian coordinates brings back my high school anxiety. The important question here is, how did Eth see this symbol if it was written on the whiteboard outside the crater 200 years later? The only plausible explanation, in my opinion, is that in the DLC we will have access to other readable pages of the Scarlet and Violet books, or to the original notes of Eth's expedition, and we will find this symbol written somewhere. For example, a long-lost page 2 of the Phantom Memory. And now, as promised, it's time for some answers. Let me start with the simplest one. Why are the symbols on the cover of the Scarlet and Violet books? I think it's because Eth found these symbols and had no idea what they mean, so he decided to put them on the cover to add more mystery to the darkest book ever seen in Pokémon history. And now the serious one. Why were the symbols in the past at Eth's time? Well, the letter 2 may have been both intentionally sent into the past by Sada and Turo using their AI robots and the time machine, prompting Eth to write them in the book in an attempt to speed up their work, as I already explained in my first video. While for the first two, this is a bit more complicated. Assuming these symbols are not here due to a series of time errors that occurred during Sada and Turo's work on the time machine, which could be possible because, as stated in the diary, the power of the crystals makes the work very unstable, I noticed a particular detail about all this that puzzled me. Why didn't Sada and Turo seem to care at all about these symbols? I read everything, took screenshots, enlarged the images, tried to translate the Paldean language, but I found no mention of these two symbols in the Professor's Lab journals or on the whiteboards. Nothing that is represented in the works that we can access resemble the mysterious plate or the circus one. It seems that these symbols were not important to the Professor for their work on terrestrialization and a time machine. So it could be possible that they had nothing to do with time travel or the secrets of the crystals. Perhaps for the Professor these ancient and mysterious symbols were a normal thing, or a very ordinary thing. Let me do an example. What would you do if you were building a time machine and wanted to test if it worked? I think that testing on the future will be a bit difficult, since you don't have tangible proof that anything has changed. Instead, testing it on the past could be much more effective. Also, if you have a researcher's diary with all the details of an expedition that took place 200 years earlier to use as a comparison, it's definitely easier. What I think is that Sada and Turo were the reason for all the strange things that happened to Eth, including the strange symbols. Let's say you're calibrating your time machine, and you've decided to aim for a specific place in the past just to see if you can reach it. And let's say that after entering the coordinates, you decided to leave a mark on the ground for someone to notice. If I were you, I would leave a very special mark, so that it will be noticed for sure. Perhaps Sada and Turo decided to use an early stage prototype time machine to fire a beam through space and time, targeting a cave in the crater 200 years back in time. And after a few attempts, magically a blank page of Eth's diary in the hands of Sada and Turo was filled with the story of a strange symbol found inside a cave. the proof that a prototype time machine can reach the past. Now, let's move on to the second phase, making something travel in a time machine. Perhaps the professors tried many times and many things got destroyed in the process. Until they decided to take a super strong metal plate of no particular value and send it back not just 200 years, but 2000 or maybe 1,000,000 years to see if it could sustain the journey. And another blank page of the diary was filled with the report of a mysterious unbreakable plate of a metal unknown to modern science found inside the crater. After tangible evidence that the plate had been found in the past, the professors took it back to their times to perform routine tests for molecular integrity and to check for any damage. And in doing so, they brought Heath further discredit from the explorers who entered the crater after him and who did not find the mysterious plate described in the book. Wouldn't it be funny if we were racking our brains over something that could just be a metal container door engraved with the logo of the company that supplied it? Okay, but now everyone thinks that the company already exists in ancient times because the plate with the logo is described inside a book. Nope. Everyone now just thinks that the company got this logo from a plate from ancient times described inside a book. Or maybe now the company is not using this logo, but is using this one instead, because history has been changed. I know what you're thinking, I'm crazy, but you're having fun. And imagine how many more experiments the professors made in the process of creating the time machine. So, let me go even further. What if they tried to use the time machine on a living thing? Maybe on a living Pokémon, without catching it with a Master Ball first. And what if they failed? In fact, there is a Paradox Pokémon missing at the moment. Of course, I'm talking about Paradox Suicune in Scarlet and Paradox Virizion in Violet. Imagine if this Pokémon was snatched from his timeline by a strange beam and killed in the process. Or worse, doomed to a half-life existence. A Pokémon condemned to an incorporeal form that travels through space and time hunting for prey. A dangerous dimensional creature that appears out of nowhere and that you don't even know if it's real or just imagined. The biggest mistake made by Salenturo. Damn, that would be so cool. Aside from this creepy digression, this is my explanation for the symbols on the covers of the books. And that's all for today. I hope you've enjoyed this video. Let me know your opinion in the comments, and if you want, leave a like and subscribe to my channel for some more. Thank you for stopping by and see you next time. Bye.